I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear.
She's not one yet, so it doesn't sound like, but it does make her, I love Lynn.
Loveland's online.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have the big ones, so you're here, I'm here, Green's here.
Holland is online.
And what about, so that's,
Trish is joining us.
Okay,
got the four big ones.
all right, well, good. All right.
Not
Hi, everyone. I call this meeting to order. This is the North Maine Transportation and Air Quality Planning Council. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Will County. Thanks to Will County for hosting. And we will, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So our next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here this evening for public comment? All right, sir. We will give, public commenter 2 minutes.
Yeah, I guess go to the podium.
I don't think so. Yell out, Steve. Hi.
Welcome, Steve. See if the mic's on for you.
Happen to know how to work this one.
All
Oh,
I think it works.
it's on, yeah.
right, Steve, we'll give you 2 minutes.
Wait, right.
Hey, my name is Steve Keats. I'm in Greeley, but also on the Well County Mobility Committee, been on for years. What I have is we need to work on it like an RTA or Regional Transportation Authority or an RTD because northern area is growing and all that, and we need to connect. Also too, on our agenda in the Will County Mobility Committee is that we have what they call case studies of what is challenges for people to get to wherever they need to go, if it's medical, jobs, or whatever. And medical seems to be the hardest. So we do need a regional as well as Greeley Evans needs a better transportation system and to connect. Also too, in Greeley, we have a buses that squeaky brakes and we need to have them fixed. Or something, and they're very piercing. I just thought I'd let you know that. Also, I would like to invite any of you to our NCMC, Northern Colorado Mobility Committee, and we meet in Windsor from 1 to 3:30, and you can, if you need any more information, Aaron would be happy to tell you about it. Also, one other thing is I've heard that we might have a bus route from, say, Greeley to Loveland. I call it the 34 Regional, but it's not started yet. But I think that needs to be redone. The route is not that good. And we need more connectivity and we need more straight along with that too as well. So that's what I would like to see, changes, good changes for the whole area, because people do need to get around and we are growing, and people, you have a better chance of a successful community or area. Thank you.
Is there anyone else tonight for public comment? All right, seeing no hands raised, we will close public comment and move on to council member announcements. Does anybody have any announcements? Councilmember Olson, please.
Is there any way we could start, is there anything in our charter that says we can't drink during committee meetings?
Drinking water, what do you got?
I'm just kidding. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to throw that.
A late April Fool's joke.
Yeah, I thought today was the first sheet before me. It's the second.
Depends on whether I'm online or not.
Any other announcements?
No, I think, what I wanted to let everybody know is that, the city of Greeley is going through some growing pains. And we're working towards some solutions. And I just wanted people to know that we are starting an oversight committee for West Greeley. We're taking names, and we have 56 as of tonight that have signed up for a 9-person board. They will work once a week until the solutions or recommendations are to the council. So I just thought I'd lay that out because transportation is a very big part of it with County Road 17. Crossroads and 17 connectivity. US 34 is a big part of this project, and it has the framework of an interchange at 17 in that framework. So Weld County is graciously doing our 1601 for us, and I think if I was to ask Kevin, we still on for May going to the chief engineer? Potentially. Yes, that might have changed.
We should speak offline.
Yeah, but the 1601 is in process. The 30% set of plans is in process for 17, so we're making a lot of progress on 34, but I just wanted to let everybody know.
Any other reports or anybody that you want to introduce? All right, we'll move on then. So our next item is a consent agenda. We usually accept that as a group, but if anybody wants to pull anything, you're welcome to pull anything from the agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything off the consent agenda?
Move to approve consent agenda.
There's a motion.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? Anyone abstaining? Okay, the ayes have it. So we will move on to the item number 5, which is the Air Pollution Control Division, that is in your handout. And number 6 is the NFRMPO Air Quality Program updates from Dina Wojcik. And is Dina online? All right, Dina, it is your turn.
Good evening. So as a reminder, I am here tonight as your consultant. I am also a RAC board member, but I am not functioning in that capacity tonight. So we're going to walk through a couple of highlights from the report that I shared. And specifically, we're going to follow up on a couple of things. So in late 2025, I kind of shared that EPA had proposed to approve a 179B analysis for Arizona's Phoenix Mesa ozone non-attainment area. And so EPA has finalized that action. And what that ultimately does is it holds in perpetuity the Phoenix Mesa ozone non-attainment area as a non-attainment area, as a moderate non-attainment area, and it kind of prevents them from future downgrades because they demonstrated through what is called a 179B analysis. And again, that's Clean Air Act Section 179B. It says for Arizona, they used the retrospective kind of looking backwards. They would have attained the 2024 ozone standard by the 2024 attainment date. It's a prescriptive process, but they would have attained that if you excluded international contributions. And they worked very closely with EPA. In fact, EPA did some significant modeling to kind of reinforce this analysis. And they were able to show that based on international contributions alone, meaning contributions coming from both Mexico and then from across the ocean from Asia, that contributions were on average about 15 parts per billion. So if you scroll to, I think it's page 5, where you see a table there, there we go. That kind of shows you on average, there were 15 parts per billion contributions to the high ozone readings in the Phoenix area. And so if you subtracted those out, the area would have been below 70 parts per billion. Now, what you see in the graph right below it, what you see is in the orange, those are contributions that are coming from Asia. But then the yellow, that lighter color, that's what's coming from Mexico. And what's interesting to me is things kind of flip during that high ozone season. You see in July and August and into middle of September, you see that contributions from Mexico were more significant and those coming from Asia were significantly lower. So you kind of saw a split. But regardless, based on international contributions alone, EPA was able to approve that determination of attainment by attainment date, kind of holding the area as a non-attainment area in perpetuity. Now, one of the things that's kind of come out of that EPA's action is I should say, Arizona also did something called an atypical events analysis. So they looked at things like wildfire influence. They looked at like natural contributions from like trees, biogenics, that kind of thing. And they also saw significant contributions from those source categories alone. But EPA kind of stepped back a little bit from acting on that and said they're taking their action solely on the international contributions alone. So that was just finalized here in late March. I think there's like 60 days for people to challenge that action. And so we're going to keep tabs on that. I do want to also note that Utah conducted a similar 179B analysis. They couldn't demonstrate by international contributions alone they would have attained, but they have to also then go into like wildfire influence and biogenics and that kind of thing. EPA was set to propose a similar action to what they just did for Phoenix. They seem to be holding back a little bit. So we're going to keep tracking the activity on that and what happens with any proposal related to Utah's Salt Lake City. And then we're also hearing, just so you know, that Las Vegas may be submitting a similar analysis. So we're keeping close eyes on that. I also then want to talk about the other big event is planning this 2026, this fall 2026 Intermountain West Regional Ozone Conference. And so what you have on your screen, and we've had some great successes in that we've got save the dates out there. And I think you are actually looking at your own website. You've got a web page dedicated to this conference. So this is where we're pointing people to find out more information. So it says, save the date for the week of October 12th. We are planning a 2 to 3 day conference. We're still kind of figuring out if it's 2 or 3 days, but right now it's being planned for the 12th through the 14th. So if you'll at least hold those days, and then we'll get more details on it, if it is it actually a 3-day event or not. So we've launched that. Hats off to Elizabeth and her staff for pulling this together very quickly. She's had some support from, I think, Dr. Morales from Weld County and folks down in the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments as well. So happy that this has been launched. So we're talking about it. We're talking about this is our intent. We're moving forward with this, and we're getting lots of positive feedback on this, both from we've heard from industry, and especially in the letters of support. You guys were so great in submitting your letters of support on this, but we're also seeing some interesting reactions from the research community. They seem to be generally excited about this, and I think people are recognizing there's a lot of science that's going on there. Can we talk about what the studies are that are happening and what the results, what they're finding? So with that, I want to talk a little bit about the timing, and let me see if I can, it's always interesting, share my screen. And I want to share a window. Here we go. So hopefully you can see this timeline. Did I just lose it?
We can.
It's still there. Okay. So as you recall, we filed an application to get some funding to support this effort. Again, we're going to hold this at cost, so we're not making a profit on this. And we submitted an application to Colorado's Air Quality Enterprise. And you'll see that on the left-hand side at the top. March 3rd, we filed that application. We hope to hear more about that in May. But the interesting thing is we may not see funding for that, and that's if they decide to fund us, may not see funding for that until the August, September timeframe. So we have been really successful, and we are grateful to like Larimer County that are giving us a great deal on the ranch facilities to hold this event. But we're running into things as simple as, hey, to reserve a block of hotel rooms, we need to have, we need to put out their, credit cards to kind of hold 140, rooms, just so people could have a place to stay during this event. And so we're starting to run into situations where, hey, we need some money, and we may not see money for a while. And the other funding source related to this would be associated with registration for the event. But we're not anticipating that registration to happen until, July, mid-July. So you'll see that in the middle of the screen on the bottom in dark red. So we're in this kind of crazy limbo place of we need a little bit of seed money just to hold blocks of rooms at hotels and that kind of thing. So that's where we are. We are seeking funding. We're seeking sponsors at this point, and so that's where we're going to really start focusing, because in order to take care of some of the logistics, we need some funding. Also related to that, I want to highlight that we are intending to issue a call for abstracts in April. So I think it's set to go out April 22nd. That's also on this timeline. We're going to issue that. We're going to give folks roughly 2 months because we're straddling the end of a school year, a semester, and we want to make sure folks hear about it and have time to respond and submit abstracts for this event to help us really kind of fill out the agenda. And so that process is going to be kicking off here soon, and we anticipate issuing special invitations to folks that we said, hey, we've been hearing about your studies or your research. We would really like you to consider submitting an abstract and presenting at our conference. We also anticipate sending out invitations to folks who we said, hey, you've been a key stakeholder in many ozone-related activities. We think you should be aware of this conference, and we would love for you to consider attending. So those are some things that are going to be happening in April. But I will stop there and just see. I'm gonna say one more thing. We have a one-pager, and I'm gonna ask Elizabeth if she would be willing to share maybe at the end of this meeting or follow up to this meeting, the one-pager that kind of highlights what we're intending to do. It's a one-page front and back document, and it kind of lists, where to go to find more information and keep track of what's happening. So with that, I will stop and ask if there's any questions.
Any questions of the Councilmember Olson?
So I got a couple. I'm gonna parlay them into a couple different ways. But the first one is this Arizona study that's been going on that the EPA is working on. I think we need some more information on it. Like, what's the cost of that study? What was the process of going through it? Sort of a layout for this group, because I really think it's something that we should be analyzing on the North Front Range MPO, and there might be others along the Front Range that want to get involved. But I think it's something that we really need to look into, and what is it going to take, and what are the outcomes? If we're in a waiting pattern because we want to see how Arizona turns out, but we could start getting ready, like, what does it cost? What does the study cost? How do you get it done? What were the steps that Arizona went through? Which brings me to my parlay. I think that would be a really good presentation at this event. And I think bringing maybe Arizona and Utah together in like a panel discussion to talk about where they're at and what they're looking for and what it's doing and how they're moving forward. But I think I would like to see, just my opinion, what it would take and how that's all facilitated for Arizona. Second, for this event, I think Weld County has done some great work over the last 3 or 4 years with their air quality and their ozone studies. And their work that they've done, I think would be a great participation for an abstract.
Ironically, Dr. Morales is working closely with the organizers to make sure that Weld County is there. And to answer another question, Johnny, Weld County is very actively working with Rambo and DGS and some of the people that we've worked on through this to pursue exactly what Maricopa County has.
All right, awesome. And I just think this board, this council should be like, Weld County's heavily doing that, but I think this board should be looking at something like that too. I'm not saying that we don't do our part, But what I'm saying is we're getting punished for other people's ozones, and I don't even know if we are, but I'm assuming we are. And then the last thing I wanted to say is the oil and gas industry has done an amazing job in doing their part for ozone and particulates and air quality, that they might be a really good industry partner to reach out to see what they've done over the last 10 years and how they've helped air quality. So those are my comments in terms of the event, and I parlayed that into a double discussion, sorry.
Will County
So-
will, go ahead, Neil.
Can I respond, or did you want to say something, Commissioner James?
My comments is we have active conversations with Secretary Zeldin and Secretary Wright, and perhaps we can even get one of them at this event, which I think would be.
That would be very, very interesting.
Just, we've had ongoing conversations.
Anything else, Commissioner?
Okay.
Dina, did you have a response at all?
Yeah, a couple of responses. So I can tell you that Arizona has invested millions in this 179B analysis. And when I asked them point blank the amount of time and effort, they can tell you like how much they paid contractors and that kind of thing, but it gets a little more fuzzy when you start factoring in all their own staff's time. As well as then I said EPA had come in and done some significant modeling to support the analysis, and that's not accounted for in their total. So we're talking pretty significant money. I do want to highlight that, and I didn't really talk about it in this report, but there's some graphics in this report that kind of shows that the international contributions, it kind of is not as conclusive when you get as far into the US as Colorado. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's not as clear cut as Arizona's Phoenix non-attainment area. And I like the suggestion to have this kind of conversation, or at least a panel discussion about that. I love it when I'm kind of on the same page with you guys, and so we are planning on hosting some kind of panel discussion related to that. It's probably going to touch on international contributions, but also maybe wildfire and biogenics and those kinds of things. And so if you take a look at the one pager that we hopefully we can send out to you, it gives you an idea of kind of the agenda we're thinking. It's likely going to change, but it at least gives you a flavor of, yeah, we are going to talk about those kinds of things. So I think I've responded to most of what you've said. I do want to just suggest also that we just keep in mind that these analyses get submitted, they have to be signed off by the governor. So whether a certain area does one or not, EPA won't act on it officially unless it matters and unless it's been submitted to them by the governor.
Well, I will send out that one pager to you guys. We did also email it just so that you're aware to the staff at the AQCC to sign up for public comment for later this month, to let them know about it as well, and just do an introduction to let the Air Quality Control Commission be aware of it. Also going to speak in the morning at the RAC board meeting to update them and thank them for their letter of support. And let them know about our abstract process and when we're going to be opening that up as an opportunity again for more partnerships. But you're spot on. The planning, we're calling it the planning team conference for a conference. They're doing a lot of hard work to put together what that abstract process would be, and we're really going to try and reach out and get a diverse group, because I think one of the things that we won't really stress on that MAG, the 179B, is it's kind of the first time where you have a menu of options that were included as part of that analysis, and that the fact that the EPA approved that kind of menu of options is not consistent with past approvals. And so that's why we want to have the conversation about topography, atmosphere, biogenics. It's more than just one thing for that's consistent with our region and how we bring the right people to have the scientific conversations with the public and other folks to understand that maybe we could try and figure out how to move to the next steps of what regulations could look like for the Intermountain West, rather than a one size fits all that we all have to as a nation. So I think it's gonna be a really exciting opportunity to dialogue. Apparently, my credit limit does not cover hotel booking.
For 140 rooms?
Well, I can earn some really good interest with that hotel booking. I can't cover that many rooms with our credit card, so it's one of those where Dina's right. You know, we're gonna reach out and see if we can get some sponsorship or some seed money to help with some of these front load costs, because we won't know if we receive the grant until May. But based on the feedback again that we're receiving, it's really positive. I'm at this point not even sure, like.
Well, your consulting industry and your contracting industry is gonna be very willing to support and set up some kind of sponsorship for this program.
What kind of seed money are you talking about?
How big's the seed?
Yeah.
Right now, I was just hoping for 50,000. And so I did try to reach out.
$40 on me.
I did try to reach out to, we're trying to contract our scope of work with CDPHE, which is the funding that we use to help, have Dina contract with us as well. And I tried to bump that up, and the state has informed me that they're on a very tight fiscal.
$1.5 billion fiscal now?
Yeah, we're gonna start reaching out and seeing if there's other opportunities for partnership, to just help with that,
And that 50,000, is that like 25,000 us, 25,000 Pikes Peak? Or are they gonna share it maybe, or can they share it part of that seed money, or tell me more about that?
Yeah, I think the intent isn't necessarily that either organization is trying to take on that financial burden. I would say at this point, my worst case scenario would be to come to you guys and say, would you let me pull it out of savings, knowing that we would get reimbursed for it? I just don't have it right now.
I think I would start with industry, and I can get you contacts for MOVE, ACEC, CCA, Kappa, all the industries out there that I think would be willing to jump in and be part of this communication. So I think you start, and I can get you names for those to reach out to, but maybe you start there and just get some sponsorships.
I nominate Councilman Olson.
No, that's not.
Chair of the seed. We need to know where you are later. It might be on the
Bottom of the plate.
We'll give Elizabeth the names and introduce her and help her there.
I just spoke at ACEC last month, so I at least have that contact.
So I guess if anybody has contacts or folks that they want to pass on to Elizabeth, it sounds like she would be willing to follow up with those. So, and Johnny, you won't have to be on the.
Thank you.
I'll be emailing Vanessa.
She saw my
tomorrow.
face.
I'd like to highlight one more thing if I could. We know the industry, we're going to be looking to industry as partners, but we also need to make sure that we are looking to the environmental groups, community groups. They are less likely to have money, but we want to make sure that we are, inviting them to be part of this as well, because it's really important that we have a variety of perspectives at this conference so we can try to facilitate some robust conversations. And so if you have contacts with those other groups as well, or you can think of anybody else who might have some funding it's not necessarily industry backed, we'd be looking for that as well.
I would be maybe volunteering for that. I think some of the bigger environmental groups could, and I do agree. I think having the balance is good. It will, the respect for the conference will be there with all those different viewpoints, and I think that's important. That being said, we're all looking for ways to do what's most financially feasible that actually moves the needle in this space. Anything else, Dina, before we let you go?
That's it. Thank you.
If I could just add on to that, I mean, this is gonna be, this isn't like our normal conferences, right? We were joking, we're like, what tagline could we say, like, this is not your mama's conference or something, you know, like, this is more of a grassroots, we're just trying to get people in the room to have the conversations. And it's so important that it doesn't, have any appearance that it's one-sided. Because what we really need to come out of this is a communication plan for our region, because we know the background ozone issues we have, and we can only affect so much change, but we still know that there's health issues associated with that. And so what is our communication plan when we know we're not able to make the difference with the tool, the strategies that we're moving forward and still not meeting those ozone levels? And so the communication plan for both sides that we can develop out of this effort is really important.
Well, I will say that I don't know if anybody, Elizabeth and I were in attendance when CSU did a presentation, and, I think that the science is getting more refined and more able to, sort of pull out, where the emissions are coming from and what kind of emissions they are, and, what is successful in one part of the state isn't even as successful in other parts of the state. What's successful in Denver isn't successful in the North Front Range area. And so there's more nuances, I think, to this than we've, maybe previously realized, or at least those of us who don't have a scientific background. And I think the tools for, parsing out these different emissions are getting more highly refined. And so, I mean, I think that there are different conversations to have than there were even a few years ago. And so, I don't know that we can make the case because of international contributions, but is there a way for them to look at other factors that the Mountain West has? I think that at least we'll have some basis, we're starting the dialogue, and I think that that's what.
Mark your calendars, save the date.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Dina. So we'll move on to the RAC, and we've kind of been talking about a lot of RAC issues anyway. Dina has a really good summary of what happened at the last RAC meeting. The only thing that I just wanted to talk about one thing with the RAC, because I was talking to Mike and other folks from the RAC today. I think there were questions a couple of months ago that came up about the Clean Air Auto Repair Program. That's the program that helps people repair their cars if they have older cars so they can pass the emissions test. And so I just wanted to give a little update on that piece. The RAC previously only did that in the DRCOG area, and now because of their NAPME funding have money to be able to do that in our region. They are still waiting on those dollars to come through, because it's not just as simple as getting the grant for, grant for dollars from CDOT. It has to go through the enterprise, and apparently there's some hiccups with that. So they're looking to start it as soon as they can get the contract with CDOT signed. But just so folks, one of the questions I think that came up was how much will they give people? And they do have a ceiling of about $5,000 that they would give people. Most repairs the average cost of a repair is $3,000. They are hoping to, in our area, do about 20 to 30 cars per year, which isn't a lot, but it does make a difference. And it definitely makes a difference for people who can't afford to, fix their cars. Somebody else, I think, was asked about how people are identified. Basically, if you fail that emissions test, CDPHE records that, and then they can contact people and say, you need to pass your emissions test, and this is a space, this is how you can do that. And then people have to prove that they are on some, whether it's like Medicaid or some kind of public service program, and then they would qualify for these repairs. So it will be starting in our community. I don't know if they've identified a shop in Grieve or in Weld County. They have identified one shop in North College in Fort Collins that will do this work, but I know that as soon as they get those dollars to come in, that they are looking to identify a shop in Weld, maybe more than one, to be able to, do this work. And so I don't know if anybody else has any other questions, but, I think this is a good program. I mean, for folks that really can afford to fix their cars, the car has to be at least 8 years old, but no older than 1996 to be eligible. Sometimes at that point, it's not necessarily even worth. There again, they have that $5,000 ceiling because, I mean, you know, at some point, it seems like it's probably just cheaper for them, you know, to buy a newer used car. I think it's a good program and I'm excited to have it in Northern Colorado. So any
I
questions?
do have a question, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I had a constituent approach me. I don't know if it's about this program or another program
Mhm.
as it relates to, we've got a vehicle that did not pass emissions.
Mhm.
And they were asking me about stuff that I didn't know. There used to be, according to them, that you could put so much into repairs and then they went ahead and passed the vehicle anyway. Does that
I think
sound
that's right.
familiar?
I think that there's
Okay.
a waiver program that you don't have to spend more than $750.
Right, I think that was the number I think they used. The question came, this particular constituent was a small business owner. And the vehicle in question was a delivery vehicle. Do those rules apply for small business as well as individuals? On your other program you were talking about, I'm assuming if you have to be on some kind of assistance, that small business would not qualify for that assistance. Which I'm not sure how you change that. If we've got delivery vehicles that are out on the road that need to be fixed, they're potentially putting more pollutants in the air than individuals. And I don't know how a small business, depending on that business, would justify whether they were making enough or not making enough. But it was a question I wanted to try to get some
Yeah.
answers back to them, or if you could point me in the right
Yeah.
direction to get those answers.
Well, I can certainly ask, Mike, you know, I don't think they're eligible, but there is that program about replacing older diesel trucks with newer diesel trucks that have more emissions controls. And they might qualify for that program, because I think that one is specifically designed for business. It's a bill that's going through the, legislature, I think, right now. I don't, because, and it's part of one of the enterprises, I think. Is that right?
That's what I understand, but I don't know enough about that to really speak about
It's a
it.
clean fleet enterprise. They had a lot of money that was for electrification and they're asking to extend the vehicles for like natural gas and clean diesel to still be included because they had put a limit, I want to say, on like 2027. I think they want to extend the years to be able to go after that funding. Because the fleets for electrification aren't necessarily all there to maximize that funding.
Got it.
So there might be an opportunity under that, but I can get back to you.
I would
Good
appreciate it.
question, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Anything else before we move on? All right, item number 8 is the non-containment area air pollution mitigation enterprise. It was a very short meeting last time. I think the only, there's just a couple little things of interest is that, the rideshare dollars, you know, it's funded by retail delivery fee and rideshare dollars. And the rideshare dollars are not as high as they were predicted to be, and so not alarmingly low, but maybe fewer people are taking rideshare. I don't know. So, so they will adjust our budget because of that. And then, just so folks know, the next NAPME meeting is April 23rd, which is a Thursday, from 12 to 1:30. It is in person in Fort Collins. Larimer County will be hosting, so if folks want to come, please let me know. We'll be doing lunch, and then, because we're potentially looking at funding big projects like bus rapid transit, we'll be riding the MAX and hearing from Transport about the MAX program, which is officially the only bus rapid transit in existence in the state of Colorado, right? There are some, being planned on federal and on Colfax and maybe on
Isn't there one on US 36?
I don't think it's technically bus rapid
It's
transit.
like bus thing, it's a managed one.
No, US 36, I think. They have a BRT system with RTD.
I think of something that's similar, but it's not quite the
I don't think she
official.
qualifies under the same. Make it,
It might be premium transit or whatever.
yeah,
Anyway, would you come for Collins closer? So let me know if you're interested in joining us. We will buy you lunch and you can learn about bus rapid transit.
Maybe they'll drive us by Fort Ram in Washington.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tour of Johnny's old farm. Now that made it so much more appealing now.
That was short and stupid.
All right, so, moving on, report of the chair, I just have one item. And, okay. So Tricia Panonico, could you come up for a second, please? So, we have this certificate for you and we presented one, to John Mallett last. But we want to thank you for your service on the NFRMPO. And thank you. You're welcome. Congratulations. Thank you for your. And we're actually glad you're still with us. Joe. Thank you. Right, executive director report.
Right. I'd like to say this is gonna be brief, but we got a lot going on. So, and I haven't had a chance to update everybody altogether. So, starting off, I'm gonna go ahead and just, let you guys know that you're probably aware, the MPO is responsible for compliance with the federal metropolitan transportation planning regulations for our region. The process says that we have to ask public for feedback on their experiences of their interactions with the MPO. This is called our certification review. So you can visit our website. We've got the link to our certification review on our homepage. You have from now until May 1st to access the comment form and provide input on our federal planning products. Essentially, the 4 that we're mandated to do is our regional transportation plan, our TIP, the UPWP, and our what we call our PIP, public information plan. If you want to go to that page, the form.
Still loading.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Let's rank.
Oh, yeah, I see it. It is thinking. Sometimes, what people, essentially, this is a requirement of FHWA and FTA, and we don't want you to miss this exciting opportunity to voice your opinions about our organization. And essentially, some of the topics can range from the MPO and our partners and how we do, how we perform our development of our federal planning products that I mentioned. The public engagement side of it, how effective is our public engagement? And how well do we administer essentially the processes and do we follow the federal rules? So that's what FHWA and FTA are looking for on that form. So like I said, don't miss your opportunity. The next I want to give a shout out to Jonathan for all of his hard work in leading and facilitating our accessibility compliance. In your packet is the memo that he put together for sharing our logo update and our color palette changes so that we can make sure we're complying with our digital accessibility requirements, especially for our documents with our white backgrounds. Go to the memo for me, Jerome. Okay, so right there with the logo, you see the change in the logo. We did just kind of define, before the mountains were a little softer. So we did kind of define the mountains, changed the blue and green colors to darker shades, added a 3rd teal color. And we changed the font to Assistant, which is essentially what all of our documents are produced in for accessibility. It means one of the fonts that meets the accessibility requirements. And then we did on the color palette that Jerome had pulled up, add a pink color to the color palette because, why not? But our gray color stays the same. So those are our new colors to meet the accessibility. So we're as we're updating our documents and going through this effort, you're gonna start seeing the updated logos. And logos technically are not required to be accessible, but because it informs kind of our color palette that we use for all of our documents, we went ahead and just made everything accessible altogether. So Thank you, Jonathan, for leading us and getting the entire team to consensus on the color palette. It was a good job. I also am grateful for staff's leadership to help equip our team with the tools that they need to do their job for accessibility. I want to thank Becky for submitting a microgrid grant to the statewide Internet Portal Authority, SIPA. It's a grant for us to purchase 7 accessibility software licenses for $6,566. So I think it just helps reflect that the NPO is committed to increasing our digital accessibility for our citizens. And I appreciate staff's ingenuity with trying to find tools and funding to help offset the costs that these rules that we have to comply with. I also, Michaela's not here tonight, but she did submit her very first safety grant application. So I wanted to give kudos to her for going through that. It's a quick turnaround. We should hear by April 20th if we're successful. This was the grant where we wanted to try and host a safety forum for 2027. And I know that sometimes when, staff is getting tasked with doing something they've never done before, that it can be, scary. And so I just really applaud staff for continuing to try and attempt to do things that might be outside your comfort zone. And I think that we'll see good results with stretching ourselves and being able to grow. So I'm really happy for that. Probably what I'm most excited for is that April 1st, our IT transition with our new service provider happened. And I wouldn't say it was perfect. Yeah, I'd say it wasn't perfect, but it was as painless as I think you could make a transition from one IT company to another. For the most part, we're really excited to have Castle Rock Sky on board. They will be our new IT service provider. I want to thank Councilmember Jenkins for helping us go through the process of selecting the firm that we ended up awarding the contract to. Their contract is going to save us more than $600 a month. And right now, what we can do is hopefully use that money to invest in some technology changes that will help bring us into the 21st century. Like going to a voice over IP system for a phone system is probably one of the projects that we'll try and tackle next. Then, speaking of IT changes, you may have noticed that we are not using GoToMeeting tonight. We have not renewed that subscription, so everybody is on Teams. So you will start seeing Teams links come out to you from the NPO for future hybrid meetings. The other thing that we're really busy with is our audit. And we did share with our finance committee this month that we have a new auditor. And when you have a new auditor, they got to really dig deep and get to know you and review your policies. And we have some policies that have not been updated since 2015. Or essentially the council, the last set I can find that the council adopted them in 2015. I found some provisions in like 2018, but council never adopted them. So one of the things that we had made our finance committee aware of, and I just want to give you guys a heads up, is that some of the dollar amounts that we found with some stale receivable write-offs in 2024 may lead us to a finding for this next audit. So there's things we're still uncovering, and I think the great thing about having a new auditor is it's giving us a fresh set of eyes to say what policies, what can we adjust and where can we tighten things up. And so I'd imagine that you guys will start seeing, as we're working through this, new policies coming for adoption before you. So that's just more of an awareness. In addition, the finance committee also did affirm our mileage reimbursement process. We didn't have anything in writing on how we were doing mileage reimbursement, so they did affirm that process. We are also pushing our financial system Acumatica go live date to May. We're investigating a payroll module as part of this effort, and we'll determine if that will get incorporated for that. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that I will be, since you guys approved the consent agenda with identifying Councilman Olson as our transit representative on council. I will be reaching out to see if he can help me facilitate a meeting with our transit partners, a future meeting with our transit partners to talk about potential funding options and transit services for the region for moving forward. So stay tuned. That's all I have, Chair.
All right, thank
We're coming to you for money.
What else is new, pal?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any questions for Elizabeth? Okay. Well, we appreciate you, updating us and getting us all in shape. That's good news. Are there any penalties for a finding, or it's just sort of a thing?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to show what we're gonna do to,
Correct.
correct it. The other thing I didn't mention with the policies is that, Finance Committee and the Executive Committee also approved me contracting with Employers Council to look at, updating, essentially getting help to revisit our job descriptions that would go into the compensation plan that I was talking to you guys about before developing, which essentially then leads into our performance evaluations. None of these things have been updated since 2013 to 2015. And so I needed some extra support. And so the Finance Committee and the Executive Committee agreed to allow me to contract with Employers Council to get some additional hours to help with that. So as we're updating all of these policies, it will include our handbook as well, and you'll get to see it all. And we'll just work on getting everything in order this year. That'll be our task for this year.
And that'll all come before us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. A lot of housekeeping kind of work, and we appreciate it. Thank you. All right. We are on to item number 11, which is the Colorado Transportation Investment Office CTIO report from Tricia Canonico. And we're gonna let Cecil tag on to this afterwards, so we can let him go. He has a few things for the Transportation Commission as well. So, Tricia, we will let you, get started, and then we'll hear from Cecil.
Thank you, and Cecil might also chime in on my presentation as well, that provide backup.
Perfect.
Yeah, so CTIO in our last meeting, we got an update on Mountain Rail, so even though it's outside of our region, I think it's kind of interesting for everyone here. They'll start year-round service in November. And so we were voting on allotting $500,000 of funding for early procurement items for a layover facility in Granby. So that'll be being built out while we move towards that year-round service. And they're also looking at a West Metro station in Arvada. That'll be a stop on that Mountain Rail service. The thing we really wanted to talk to you about tonight was the 10-year plan project strategy, and we have slides for that. So this was to recommend strategies to CTIO they can implement to support the 10-year plan projects on I-25 and I-270. Yes, that one. So the EIS was signed in 2011, and this really addressed the, really explosive growth that we saw in northern Colorado at the time, to look at improving safety of I-25, replace aging infrastructure, and provide a different multimodal alternatives like rail and bus. And really starting with the express lane build out too. And we have, out of the 52 continuous miles, there's still 16 miles remaining for the express lanes to be built out. Bustang was launched along this corridor in 2015. And we are, you all know where we're at if you drive I-25, what remains to be completed. So right now, we are financing the express lanes with a TIFIA program through the Build America Bureau. And they just changed how much your maximum eligible amount is. It went from 33%, it's now at 49%. So we're looking at two different options. but basically, leveraging our loan amount up to that 49% of the project so that we have extra money. So as you can see, that bottom part of option 2, we have, project costs up to 501 million right now, and we can apply for more money. Wanna go on?
Well, basically, the big key takeaway from that is the 33% going to 49%. That's really the big thing, and then the numbers really tell the tale.
Yeah, so we have an extra 805 million now that we can borrow for the North I-25. And so the next one shows where we're get that revenues from along the corridor. And what coming online, we expect segments 5 through 8 to comprise 43% of the revenue. And then when we get segment 4, that'll be another 20%. So here are the projects left to be completed, and with the 10-year plan funding, that'll bring in 235 million towards those projects, which requires then 863 million in additional funding. So with this new ability to borrow up to 49% of the project, that will cover that and will also give us a delta of $31 million to put towards other priorities for CTIO. So the next slide really talks about looking at risk considerations, and very conservatively, if we see segment 5 taking longer to come online, if segment 2 has to be closed longer than we anticipate, and if revenue is lower for segments 4 through 8, this is worst case scenario with that.
Yeah.
Seems to have something.
The important piece of this chart is that it relates to revenue that is not going to be used by year, that would be available for other uses. And right now, it can only be used by those projects that are legal within our current purview. But I think that when we were asked to look at this, the idea was to see what was available in the North I-25 area for potential use to help fund Mustang. And so the top line tells you by year what would be available in that particular year. And so, for instance, 2027, there would be $60 million that could be available. In 2028, 11 million. And then, as you can see, as we start getting into where we have to do start paying back some of the loans and things like that, then the numbers go down, especially in 2034, when those big payments start to happen. Okay, so caveat, that is if everything goes according to plan. If there isn't something that happens like happened on 36 where the bridge or the collapse, we are late in getting the tolling started by over a year on 6, 7, and 8. Those kinds of things. Segment 5 doesn't open on time. We think it is. The last time I heard, we were ahead of time.
I heard we're ahead.
Yeah.
Open that time, we'll be told we're not that.
Well, that's the problem. So there's issues that we can't foresee, but that was what we were asked to look at.
So can I ask a question? So last time the presentation you gave, I thought we were in a deficit of $5 to $6 million for Mustang on North 25.
7.
So we're going to be ahead of the game on some of this.
Yeah. If you don't mind, if you back up one slide for me, please. That one right there. This, if you take a look at the second column at the top, that tells you how much funding, strategic funds are available for each of these projects, in the 10-year plan. So those are strategic funds. The only one that is in the outer years is segment 4, that 38 million. So but it's in the outer years, and we think that it we'll get to there in time to utilize that 38 million. Does that make sense? Building wise, and when we need that money. But if it isn't, then we're at a $7 million deficit down here, because subtracting the 38, you're at that $7 million deficit. That's where the difference is. But we think by programming and what Heather has told us, we think we're gonna be in good shape there as far as timing.
I will say for everyone to remember, tolling starts on the 7th on I-25. Yeah.
April Fool?
Two.
Just for you. The other thing that we talked about is CTIO is moving to a new commercial back office system that will replace E470 and receive transactions collected from the technology along the express lane. It sounds pretty simple. It's a really complicated, involved process, and it'll take about a year to complete.
Do we need to get new boxes for our car? Little.
I think we didn't talk about that, but yes, I would imagine we will.
You will still be able to use the little,
Thing.
okay, but there will be a new one probably available. So, but they'll be interchangeable. You can use either one on any corridor. That's
And for E47.
every one of them. Well,
And
that's because we've been talking about this for 2 years. and
Okay.
You haven't heard that.
I've not been around that long. The exciting thing is that we sold Burnham Yard to the Broncos with our last meeting. So that will enable CTIO to pay off the financing of the property that was due on May 31st of this year. So that's kind of exciting. And John's gonna come up here for,
If you don't mind,
Can
let
I
me
just
finish
ask a
that.
question about the TIPIA? Is that, so are we moving ahead then?
With what?
Is the CTIO moving ahead to borrow those additional dollars, or is it still?
Which dollars you talking about?
Well, the TIPIA.
49% to go to the
Oh,
second.
No, what the board directed Piper and staff, and if you look at your chart, your handout there, it tells you basically what we told them to move forward to reach out to Build America Bureau and the TIPIA, and there's a whole list of things there that the staff is going to do. The biggest thing is working with TIPIA to get certified and creditworthiness, and that's about a 36-week process. And then, of course, there's all the negotiations with all of the bond people to get bonds and get all of that, and that takes some time as well.
Yes.
Do you need that study that you were talking about?
Oh, it'll be an updated traffic and revenue study.
So it's not. Early in the process.
We're early in the process, but I'm really confident that with the experiences we've got with Build America Bureau in the past and all of the great relationships we've got there, that we're pretty positive.
And the TIPIA loans have been undersubscribed for the last 5 years.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money in the TIPIA program that they want to give away. I mean, you still got to go through their process, obviously.
Yeah.
But once you do, TIPIA has been undersubscribed for a lot of years.
Is that why they're extending some of these?
Let me ask you a couple of questions if I could, Commissioner Gutierrez and Tricia. You referenced the EIS. I'm assuming it's a foundational document by which you consider to be your scope. And then there's a reference to excess revenue. But I back again to go to excess to what? Because if the EIS is referenced, the EIS indicates a 3+1. So there's no excess until we have the 3+1 content, if that's what you're referencing, is the EIS.
The EIS is,
I'm just saying.
I know.
Oh my
Look,
goodness.
if
There's
you
no
look at that
excess
one,
until it's built.
well, you're right.
Thank you. I do that. I'm just
However-
going through the rhetorical process with you.
I know. You put me on the spot here, Commissioner.
Well, I'm just
But
making
I'm
the
not-
point, there's no excess until the job's done.
The,
See that? I'm saying not you guys, president of the company. Where's my hotline, the C-suite?
yeah, I'll take that.
Okay. Well, I will squeak that.
Tricia,
tomorrow as
Tricia will
well.
take that back to the committee, committee.
Okay.
There are a couple of other things that, I would add to the CTIO report. We've had, a significant number of, joint meetings with a variety of different other organizations. The Transportation Commission, we had another meeting, a joint meeting on Mustang again. Some additional information, but we're still nowhere near solving the problem. We will have another one coming up this month again, and I'm not anticipating there'll be really that much new information there either. But people keep asking questions, so they're bringing them back, at least, gotta say that much. We have had, joint, sessions with, CTE and, the TC, regarding the joint service agreement. And, I will tell you that we will have a meeting on April 28th, where that joint service, a lot of that, final agreement between RTD, CTE, TC, CTIO, and the whole alphabet soup, we'll see the final documents. And, all of those organizations will be asked to, pass a resolution that doesn't commit the money, but commits to committing the money. So that's where we're at with that, with the joint service, yes.
So if I heard Tricia correctly, that CTIO is putting 500 million into the rail,
500,000
500,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
for early procurement items, for the layover.
Good catch.
now there's a couple zeros on
Yeah,
that. But 500. We talk millions typically. She said
I caught your
500.
attention, I love that. Yeah,
She didn't say
It
now.
was so low, it caught your attention.
Yeah, 500. I mean, we're always talking millions and all of a sudden we're at 500K.
and there are some other pieces that need to be funded as we're moving along to get.
Can CTIO, my question is, according to the state statute, can CTIO participate in rail?
Yes. 184 authorized all of that.
You're investing monies into branding,
Multimodal.
multimodal.
That's what 184. They could do it because it's multimodal.
Yeah, but it specifically calls out, bus and rail. 184 does.
And this is to build up the infrastructure for a layover for the train. Because right now, that's gonna be the terminus at Granby. And so with Amtrak, they need a facility for their crew, much like airlines need that for their
Gotcha. All right.
people. Yeah. And also the turnaround, the train piece of the rail. piece of it.
I had one of those on the train set I had as a kid when you had to crank it down.
Yeah.
Scott has experience.
I was the same.
So, yeah, and basically the Transportation Commission, has basically been looking at the same stuff. We've been pretty much, joined at the hip for the last 3 or 4 months. And, the only other thing is that we did pass our TC budget, this last month.
Did we expect a bill, that mean, should we expect a bill around, CTIO helping fund busing or taking money off, off corridors from busing? Do you think that that's gonna happen? And we got, how many more days?
42
45?
42 days,
a late bill like that?
12 hours and 37 seconds.
There, I think Tricia and I are probably the least qualified to answer that.
Okay. I'm,
Got you off the
I'm
hook.
not sure that yeah, I just wondered if you heard, if you think that's gonna materialize, but you have no idea yet.
I'm hearing it'll be a late status bill
Yes, yeah,
if it comes to fruition, but I'm hearing that it's been sort of paused to some degree, but I wouldn't put it past them.
Well, I think that there has, what I will say is that I think they're still hearing some of the same pushback they heard 2 years ago. And I think they're concerned about that pushback that they heard 2 years ago, and they're hearing basically the same pushback.
I think they're getting an earful.
They're getting an earful, and they're trying to figure out a way to appease that pushback to make it more palatable, especially seeing as how both the MPO, our MPO, and I understand Pikes Peak is sending a very similar letter that they're willing to fund bus staying within their corridors.
There's a lot of lobbyists pushing from a lot of different angles.
Yeah.
But the impression I got is that it's CDOT, I mean, based on what Emily said last night, is that it's CDOT working with stakeholders and still trying to figure out what that would look like, and that, but it doesn't sound like they have legislators who agree to, like, I don't know that they've confirmed who's sponsoring that.
I don't think they have.
Yeah, I don't know that.
I mean, I'm sure somebody who would benefit from it on the west, I mean, on the I-70 corridor. Like, I don't know, I don't.
There's a lot of back smoky room discussions going on.
Once you open that can of worms.
No, I mean,
Well, again.
I'm just, you know, I mean, I don't know a lot of the, about the machinations.
It is. It's going to be fast and furious, so I think
Yeah, yeah.
there's gonna be testimony. There's gonna be a lot of people, there's gonna be a lot of people opposing it. I think I've heard from CML, CCI. I mean, it's just not us. There's a lot of people that are saying that is not what the bill is sponsored for.
Well, if you guys hear anything, let me know, and I'm happy to share it.
You will be the first person that I call.
The other thing, speaking of bills, is, you know, it sounds like the MMOF general fund, getting rescinded is going through the long bill. I don't know that.
The
When that-
GBC did
Yeah.
take out,
They did.
I heard from Barb today
Okay,
at one of my legislative committees. They did strip the MMOF out.
did they, one of the other things I heard also, and I don't know if you guys are aware about a bill with modifying the percentage of MMOF that gets distributed to the community. Like, right now it's like 70-30, and they talked about maybe modifying it to 60-40.
There was no discussion because I think it was halted out of the general fund.
I heard the governor's office went back and asked for some of that money to come back to communities, and the ABC is not willing to.
No, they're, from what we understand is they're taking the legislative council's projections and they threw those out and they're using the Office of Budget and Finances projections, which is $500 million more than the ledge council. And that then puts us into one-time funding bills again, because the projections are higher. So their budget went from $1.5 billion to $1 billion because they're one-time funding scenarios. And they're fighting the Tabor refund, saying they're overpaid. And so there might see something on the table.
All right, so we continue. We'll let you go.
And the other piece of this legislation on bus staying funding through CTIO is that CTIO has some significant restrictions based on the enabling legislation, even 184. And there's pieces of it within the Constitution that limit what enterprises can do. There's the enterprise laws, all of that. So I think they're having to work
So it might
with
not-
the AG's office to get around some of those.
It might not even be feasible to have a bill that if it's constitutional. Okay,
We don't know.
all right.
We're not in that, we're not in those back
That's
smoky
okay,
rooms.
that's okay. I don't know,
It smell like cigars when you look at it.
No, no.
All right, well,
Thank you, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Cecil, for representing us. And Tricia.
Thank you, Tricia. All right, Tricia is now on for Front Range Casting Array.
And
John.
gonna take.
I think I'm gonna kick it off. Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
John.
Good to see you all again. It's always a pleasure to be here. I'll give you a quick update. It might be a little disjointed in that, South Pace, general manager of that PR, see on the phone, is supposed to be here. I'm not sure which, but I wanted to make sure we didn't have any crossover. So he's at a higher level than what Trish and I are gonna discuss today. But going back to our last, full director meeting, which was, March 26th, it was mostly contractual work, but we did have a conversation and discussed a resolution that will identify the Sterling Ranch primary station location and a potential special event station at Burnham Yard. So two different things. Sterling Ranch primary station, I'll have a little bit more information on that, but that's going to be our Douglas County stop. If you've been keeping track of it, Douglas County and Castle Rock, we're in and we're not in, and basically they're not in anymore. So we were approached by Sterling Ranch, which I'll give you some information on that in a second. It was kind of a new entity to me anyway. And then of course, the Burnham Yard issue, we've described that as potential because there's obviously nothing locked down yet, but they did approach us. They're calling it a special event station versus the Bronco station. There's going to be more than just the Bronco game. So that's that. Yeah, I guess I got Sterling Ranch right here. Okay. Sterling Ranch area is to be identified as the board's chosen site for the Douglas County Station. The proposed station site is the vicinity of US Highway 85 and Titan Road along the Santa Fe Drive corridor, specifically along the alignment of the Class 1 railroad track that will carry FRPR service. This is operationally appropriate location for the Douglas County stop. This site sits between Castle Rock and Highlands Ranch, and it's quite sizable. A little bit about Sterling Ranch. This is via Google. Sterling Ranch is a master plan community within unincorporated Douglas County, governed by a metro district. That's a little different, right? It is the largest community in Douglas County with significant remaining growth potential. Sterling Ranch recently received approvals to expand its planned build out from 12,500 to 16,000 homes, with approximately 12,000 remaining to be constructed. At full build out, Sterling Ranch is projected to house 55,000 people. So it's between two pretty good sized cities. It makes a lot of sense and situated on the rail line. So we jumped at the chance to talk with those folks a little bit more about that. Tricia has been involved with our town hall schedule. I think she doesn't take any credit for it. She spent a lot of time putting together the Fort Collins town hall that we had last Monday. And she's working on the Loveland one as we speak. So thank you for that. Better you than me, as they say. So anyway, as far as town halls, we've had one in Pueblo, March 8th, March 19th, Denver, 23, Denver, 26, March 26th, Colorado Springs, March 30th, Fort Collins, April 4th coming up quick is Longmont, April 8th is Longmont, and April 11th is the Denver Center for African American Health. And April 16th is Loveland and a rejuvenated Pulliam Community Building. Very proud of that. Hope that if you have some interest, you can join us there. And then April 19th is Westminster City Hall. Boulder was on the schedule, taken off. There were some conflicts, but there's definitely going to be something happening in Boulder, probably two things happening in Boulder. Our target was 22 town halls. As you can see, we're well on our way. That's what's coming up. Town halls. I won't get too deep because Sal might want to talk a little bit about this, but we're nearing the end of our Name the Train contest. There was 25,000 people that didn't have anything better to do than pick up. Yes, ma'am. Did you raise your hand? Or?
No, I raised my hand because I'm one of those too, but.
Okay. So did I, but mine didn't win. We do have the results. We're not going to share them only because the governor wants to do that on Monday. So if you're available at 11:10, at track 7 at Union Station, the governor will announce the winner as well as the winning contestant for some sort of commercial idea for the winning train. So I don't know why 11:10 sounds kind of odd, but I guess my guess is probably have to get the governor off the train, off the rail before a certain time. So it'll be timely, but along with that, we've had a very successful marketing. I call it marketing. I think a lot of people call it outreach these days, but the campaign has reached millions, earning 70+ media stories across print, digital, and TV since the launch. In Fort Collins, I think we underestimated. We had standing room only. I
About
think
250 people.
Yeah, I think it was her cookies. She has nice cookies made. And so that's very good. So, looking at the names.
I just posted it on Facebook.
Okay. All right, so
He
that's
didn't have
it.
his glasses on.
And I'll just add 2 things really quickly, talking about late bill, there will be a late bill coming, next week, to realign the district. You know, things have shifted a little since the district was formed in 2021, so now that we know where the alignment really is, we need to refine that down. So if we're looking at 3 miles around the station area, so the municipalities that fall within those 3 miles, so that takes Timoth, Windsor, and Johnstown out of the district, so they won't be part of the tax.
I don't know if they know better.
I will happily announce it
They
to my
will
home
now.
municipality.
And then I will say that the service development is kind of the blueprint for everything, that we've been working on will be hopefully submitted mid to late spring to the Federal Railroad Administration. So a couple things to look forward to.
I have a question. I'm just looking at your agenda from the March 26th meeting. Under number 7, board items. B is 5013 strategic. C all the way media. D is Symbion LLC. E aspect strategic. F BBMK governmental affairs. I mean, the list goes on. Are these all consultants?
They're, yeah,
How much money do you pay consultants
that I do not know. But
We have,
we do have.
on a train that has yet been approved by the voter?
well, we have to
You haven't
do,
collected the solitary fare mile. Oh my God.
to go to the ballot, we statutorily have to do outreach. And so a lot of these consultants have been hired on to do that, but there's 3 full-time employees for the district. And, you know, there is just a lot of work to be done. So looking at the station area development, figuring out the district, boundaries, the outreach piece, the town hall. So it's been a heavy lift to get to the engagement piece that we have to do before we determine whether or not we're going to go to the ballot.
The legislature funded it in the very beginning, I think around $6 or $7 million. So it was funded.
How many million miles could we pay for $6 or $7 million? I am thankful that Lower County and Johnstown are out of that district. That is,
I'll just add this. You guys may or may not remember that we got promised $3 million from CDOT. We're that close to getting that done. The IGA signed, including as first tranche of $1.5 million, which will get us back on budget. And then the second tranche comes later, of course. And there's also $1 million there. I'm not sure if it comes now or later, just to get it on the ballot. That was from the governor's office. So now we are behind budget a little bit, but this thing catches up once we get everything signed. Good observation.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if I can, Madam Chair.
Yeah. who was that?
And John Tricia, I really appreciate the information, especially on the budget standpoint. I'm behind John, as you obviously know, because I came in behind you. If for some way or shape or form, you can provide me some of that budget documentation just to look over and catch myself up of where things are being paid for now and how they've been paid for, it'd really help me.
Sure, not a problem.
There was some transferred from previous committee of $3 or $4 million for the service development plan through past committee. Can't remember the name of the committee now, but my brain's fried on that, but. So there was money that was moved from legislature and from CDOT to and Sal can talk about it because he was on both committees, so he can tell you all about it.
All right,
Thank you.
any other questions? Thank you both. Let's see it. So finance committee is, written, number 13, 14, the tax executive summary is written. Legislature updates are written. Mobility program updates are written, and that's in the handout. So move on to Jonathan Stockburger for the March 2026 tip-off.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. The March 2026 TIP amendment includes 2 product additions from Transport. The first project is Transport Max Battery Electric Bus Purchase. This project features $4,979,250 of CDOT Clean Transit Enterprise or CTE funding and $533,250 local funding in fiscal year 27. This project purchases 3 battery electric buses. The second project is Transit Operations Program. This project features $2,666,024 CDOT CTE funding and $296,225 local funding, all in fiscal year 26. This project provides operating assistance and rolling stock for Transport. The public comment period opened on March 1st, 5th, what does that say? 5th, and will close on April 6th. The approval of this amendment is contingent on there being no negative public comments by the end of that period. NFRMPO staff noticed advantages and tax supported adding the March 2026 TIP amendment to the fiscal year 24 to 27 TIP at their meeting on March 18th.
Thank you. Jonathan, any questions? All right, would entertain a motion for this.
Trying to find the number. Johnny beat me to it. Here it is. Madam Chair, I move to approve resolution number 2026-08, the North Front Range Transportation and Air Quality Planning Council, approving the March 2026 amendment to the FY 2024-2027 Transportation Improvement Program.
A motion from Commissioner James, is there a second?
Right, second.
Second from Mayor Cole. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, nay. Anyone abstaining? All right, the ayes have it. And we are going to change the order a little bit because Sal Pace, the general manager of the Front Range Passenger Rail, is online. So Jerome, while we would love to hear from you next, we will hear from our guest first, and then you'll be after that, if that's all right. So welcome, Sal, and it looks like we have your slide deck up, so go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Great, and good evening, everybody. And my name is Sal Pace, and I'm the general manager of the Front Range Passenger Rail District. Thank you all for inviting me, and I'll try to add a little more detail and color to the excellent presentation from our board members appointed by your MPO. So if we, I don't know if I can move this slide deck or if someone else controls it here. Okay, there we go. You know, this is going to be some high level stuff, but I'll drill in areas where I think there might be a little more interest. The district was just referenced as a Title 32 special district, like so many other Title 32 special districts. And in this case, we were created with the statutory direction to plan, finance, construct, and operate intercity passenger rail from state line to state line. We've listed the station alignments up on the screen on the top left here, and for the northern part of the state, starting in Fort Collins, going through Loveland, Longmont, Boulder, down into Denver, and ultimately to southern Colorado. We're also exploring some special event stops, such as a station at the Burnham Yard. We're working with the Broncos on that for a special event stop for their stadium. We can go ahead here on the slide deck, and we can just go to the next slide right away. So some of the reasons for Front Range passenger rail are pretty intuitive. If you hop on I-25, you'll notice how uncomfortable and less fun it is every time you get on it. In the Denver metro area, people are losing 76 hours annually just being stuck in traffic. That's nearly 2 full work weeks. And the numbers are only getting worse throughout the state. We can go ahead to the next slide, and we can go ahead to the next one as well. Obviously, this is costing us money, and excess fuel that gets even more expensive every day. Actually, right now, the ski train that is open and managed by CDOT from Denver up to Winter Park, you can start getting a ticket from Denver to Winter Park starting at $9. So with the rising fuel prices, it's even a more affordable way to travel for constituents. To the next slide, we referenced the service development plan in the previous discussion. This is a really term of art. It's a pre-NEPA document. We've been working in collaboration with the Class 1 railroads for 3 years on this. Class 1 railroads being Burlington Northern and BNSF. They're no longer called Burlington Northern, they're BNSF, and Union Pacific. And if we go to the next slide, this slide really underscores the fact that it's a pragmatic approach to delivery. So across the country, and even in the past here in Colorado, rail projects have been greenfield development in so many cases. In this case, we wanted to focus on delivering service pragmatically and practically. And so the proposal is to lease right-of-way from the Class 1 railroads and to share their trackage. And in some cases, we have to add some sidings, which are passing lanes, and some additional infrastructure. We actually have a term sheet negotiated with the Burlington Northern, they did it again. They're no longer Burlington Northern, BNSF, from Denver up to Fort Collins to contemplate our starter service from Denver up to Fort Collins. That'll start in 2029. And we also focused our service development plan on 10 round trips as opposed to a higher number and a max speed of 79 miles an hour. Now, I hear 79 and I think, it'd be nice to go faster, but we did some research and looked at the cost of improvement, because with the Federal Railroad Administration, the FRA, after you pass 79, you have a new infrastructure standard that costs significantly more money. And it turns out in Colorado, because of curvature and elevation, and you're going through a lot of municipalities and city cores where you have to slow down. We only had 14 miles where we could hit speeds over 79 miles an hour. And it only saved us 4 minutes on run time to get up to 90 miles an hour. So we settle on the best return on investment. That's 10 round trips and 79 miles an hour, as opposed to trying to push for something that might be more appealing, but a lower return on investments. To the next slide. So joint service, and this is going to impact Fort Collins and Loveland. Joint service is starter service, the 3 daily round trips by 2029. And joint service is going to be paid for by RTD dollars and state enterprise dollars without any state general fund dollars or without any new tax revenue or tax dollars. Joint service is a taking a problem and trying to find an elegant solution. So RTD, which is a separate entity from us, had previously promised in fast tracks to deliver rail service to Boulder. They had never delivered on that promise, but they had stashed away some money to start working on it. We've proposed a service delivery plan up to the north that would utilize some of the dollars that RTD has stashed aside, along with dollars in the Clean Transit Enterprise, in order to deliver rail service without any new tax dollars. This deal is going to be the term sheet with BNSF, which is fully negotiated, is going to be released next week. It'll be public on the 9th, and we expect a final vote by the RTD board later this month. And what this means is the first leg, the starter service, means that if and when we go and we pass something with the voters, that will deliver future service more affordably and sooner, and allow us to ramp up quicker and deliver to communities faster with that tax revenue. And the plan is for a community such as Fort Collins or Loveland is ultimately to build out to 10 round trips a day, and also to provide a local return match back to the municipalities with stations to allow them to develop stations. I'll talk a little bit more about that in an upcoming slide here, but we can go to the next slide. So this is sort of the crux of it all. We are considering a 2026 ballot question. There were questions about a little while ago about the contractors that we had signed with recently. Those were all from grant dollars specifically awarded to the district to prepare us for the 2026 ballot. And we determined not to put those dollars into FTE, who become a permanent expense on the ballot, on the fund balance, as opposed to something that's temporary. And so we're using those grant dollars to specifically execute the ballot access plan. It's results oriented. We have to meet certain metrics and deadlines, and if we don't, then we quit spending that money and we don't get the second half of our grant. We have launched the online engagement program that John talked a bit about, and the engagement we've seen with the Name the Train campaign and others has really been strong, and the public interest has really been strong, with town halls from Pueblo to Fort Collins getting over 200 people at public town halls. We can go to the next slide here. The local return program, I touched on this briefly. This is a proposal that the board is going to formally Pardon me, can you hear me there?
Yep.
All right, sorry. I've got my Bluetooth connected to both my computer and my phone, and when someone calls me. So local return is a proposal that we're going to take up as a board to formally adopt, or we're looking to at our next board meeting at the end of April. The concept is that local communities are better stewards and understand land use and local priorities better than a large state special district. And so our hope is that local municipalities will be interested in building, constructing, operating, managing their stations and their station areas. And so we'll be, for communities that opt in for doing this, we will be sending dollars back from the tax revenue directly to the local municipality. It's loosely tied to, or it is tied, not loosely. It is tied to population, and so those communities that are paying in more money receive more money back. In the case of a community like Fort Collins, we're proposing sending $75 million back from the tax revenue to Fort Collins. Now that is done over 25 years, so $3 million a year to support any capital infrastructure around the station. We will ask to sign an IGA with each of the municipalities to clarify exactly how they're going to be spending their dollars and have some transparency and some basic guidelines. But generally, we want the municipalities to drive what they want to envision with their stations. And you know, I think we've all seen what Denver has done with Union Station and how that's been transformative for that part of Denver. I think there's an opportunity for communities to use the station as an anchor and use that anchor to spur on more development, more placemaking, build stronger downtowns. But really, our goal is ideally to step back, provide plenty of money for the local municipalities to do that work if they wish to do so. If they don't, then the district will handle the construction maintenance operation of those stations. We just think that local control with these types of issues are always going to be create a better product. Next slide. So we are going to the legislature with a bill being introduced this next week, as Tricia mentioned, that will be redrawing the district boundaries. We recognize that when we created the district in 2021, we didn't know what route alignment we were going to look at. We were actually looking at the one we selected, but also one along the CDOT right of way on I-25, and also a route alignment further east of I-25, and ultimately settled on this western alignment. Had the strongest return on investment and ridership projections. So now we're going to redraw the district, or ask the legislature to do so, and include in those people who live closest to the stations. So as opposed to being based on the corridor, your access to the station. We're also looking at polling and research to get direction on messaging and ensure that we're being consistent with what the voters are looking for, and not go and push forward if we don't have a clear path with the voters. And of course, we have to comply with Tabor and the Fair Campaign Practices Act. If and when we ultimately refer something to the ballot, all communication will stop, all these town hall meetings and outreach, and that'll be in the hands of people who work on campaigns and spend campaign dollars. And in the meantime, we don't ever ask people to vote for anything or encourage support for a ballot measure. And if ultimately we decide not to go forward in 2026, the work we're doing will be, you know, from station area work to our operating plan. All of this will be a very strong foundation for a future ballot question. On to the next slide. We do have more stringent financing plan requirements than other Title 32 special districts or local governments. And that is because of unfulfilled past promises with transit and rail projects. And so we are part of our statutory requirement. We're building out an implementation plan that links funding to service outcomes. We're developing a financial plan that describes how the funds will be managed, allocated, and safeguarded. To the next slide. And then we talked about the branding exercise that has just concluded and will be announced on Monday to help name the public service name of the line. The example I like to give is about the Southern Passenger Rail Commission. Was the last corridor ID to come on board in the country, new passenger corridor, and it connects the Gulf Coast. And they named their train the Mardi Gras Express. They're about 8 months into their service, and they already passed their annual ridership projections about 3 or 4 months into service. So, we're not going to be the Front Range Passenger Rail Train. We're going to have a service name that that was selected by the constituents of the district with a lot of people voting and participating. We are working on these agreements with the freight railroads and building our public-facing operating plan. As I mentioned, we'll have a term sheet available next week about the starter service, and we're working on creating a narrative and a visual for each one of the stations, working in collaboration with the local municipalities to ensure that we're encapsulating their vision for what they'd like to develop at their station areas. Because, like I said, we'd like to keep that as a locally driven process. The next slide is simply outlining the 18 pieces of plan that we're working on to get ready for the ballot and where we are in each one of those. We're about to wrap up what we're calling phase 1 of our ballot access plan and getting ready to move into phase 2 at the beginning of May if we've hit all our benchmarks. And that's the crux of my presentation, and happy to dive into any particular topic into more depth.
Sal, any questions for Sal? Commissioner James.
Thank you, Mr. Pace, for your presentation. Scott James, Will County Commissioner. I am curious. I took a look at page 8 of your presentation, the alternative analysis recommendation. You're recommending alternative 3. I took the high end of your ridership at 1.6 million folks. Is that annually?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's an annual projection. $87 million operating cost. On my simple math on my iPhone calculator here, that's $54.75 a passenger. And you're going to charge them $8.75. That's $46 subsidized by the taxpayer. Is that a sales tax?
Yeah, Commissioner, I think, as you're aware, property tax is a more liable tax, but the voters continually are telling us that they prefer to pay sales tax.
In a era where I am questioned every day by my constituency about what I'm doing to impact affordability in the state of Colorado, how do I explain this?
Yeah, no, I think that's the right question. And first of all, we see this as a transportation option, not to replace highways and roads, but to be an alternative. Pardon me?
Better funded.
Pardon me?
I said it's better funded.
Who's that?
I wished I had $87 million in Region 4.
Oh, well, the CDOT annual budget's a couple $2 billion.
Right.
And so this is, compared to highways and roads, this is a more affordable. It's also intended to be an affordable option for people to use. It is a, it comes down to a policy choice whether or not to invest into rail as an alternative, as another alternative to roads and bridges. And I think roads and bridges are are the most important investment, and it's how our state and our country operate is with highways and roads and bridges. And so this could be a transportation alternative, like any other. I do think so. From that service development plan, that's a high end on operating costs, and I think the 1.6 million is a low end on ridership.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Any other
welcome. Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Pace. We appreciate the presentation. I had seen it just recently, having attended the open house on Monday, which was wildly successful in Fort Collins. 250 people, standing room only. I know that in Larimer County, we've been waiting for this for a while, and especially in Fort Collins, it's wildly popular. So we'll look forward to hearing the name, I guess, on Monday at 11:10 a.m. And as a Team Fred person, I'm hoping for that, but we'll see. I heard Coco is also really popular. So yeah, we appreciate the presentation. It's really really interested to see where we're going from here. And I apologize, but did you say when you might know when it's going to be, whether or not you're going to go for the ballot this year?
We would have to notify the Secretary of State by the end of July and then finalize ballot language in August.
Okay. And I assume you're doing some polling as well as not just the open houses, but polling as well.
Yes.
Probably one of the consultants that we saw. So, okay. Well, keep us posted. You're always welcome to come back if you have new news. And we really do appreciate the presentation, and look forward to hearing more about the rail as more things happen.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Welcome. I want a railroad pun here, but it's 8 o'clock and I'm not thinking of one, but anyway, thank you again.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we will go back now to Jerome, and he has the active transportation plan update.
Good evening. So we're finally here at the end of the active transportation plan. Let's go to the next slide. Good, it wanted to work. So first we'll begin with how is active transportation defined in our plan. And it is human powered and human scaled modes of transportation. So that includes pedestrians, walking or rolling, bicycles, scooters, skateboards. That also includes electric assist bicycles, electric assist scooters, and things of that nature. So what is the active transportation plan? So the active transportation plan is an update to our shared regional vision for improved active transportation within and between communities. It is guidance for consistent active transportation planning in the region and functions as a toolbox for active transportation planning in the region. It also serves as the active transportation element for our regional transportation plans. So this one will serve as the biped element for the 2050 RTP, as well as the Connected Communities 2055 RTP until the next ATP is adopted, whenever that may be. So a little bit on the plan format. So the format did not really change from the last plan. We kept the 5 chapters. So chapter 1 is introduction, and that gives an overview of what is the active transportation plan, as well as briefly discussing some of the benefits of investing in active transportation. It is not holistic. That would be quite long. We just do the highlights amongst different categories. So we have health, we have economic, we have others I'm sure I'll remember at midnight tonight for that. And then chapter 2 is existing conditions. And as part of that chapter, that's where we include our regional active transportation facilities. as well as our safety information as well, along with a plethora of other information concerning how our system is now, including some outputs from our regional travel demand model. And then chapter 3 is strategies, approaches, and emerging trends. That one's pretty self-explanatory. In that chapter, we also go into more explicit detail on e-bikes, e-scooters, some guidance on those. And then a later slide, we'll go into a few other things right in that chapter. Chapter 4, which is by far the biggest one, is the regional active transportation corridors. And I'll go a little bit more into detail about what is in those later in the presentation. And then chapter 5 is action steps / recommendations. Again, I will go into that into more detail. And then various appendices. So before we get into the plan, as part of this planning effort, we did send out a survey to the public, and this was done in 2024. So with that survey, we received 262 responses, 3 of them being in Spanish. We've received responses from 19 different zip codes, and that survey closed in September 2024. And then in this map, that shows where we've received a lot of the responses. You will see Fort Collins has a very high portion of the survey responses. That is due to CSU sending out the survey to the student body. But we did see some responses all across the region. After Fort Collins, Greeley saw the highest amounts. So then I'm going to briefly go through some of the results of that survey as it was incorporated into the plan. So one of the questions that we asked survey takers was, I would ride a bicycle more if, and then we listed a bunch of different reasons. So out of that, the top 5 responses are, there were more physical barriers between bikes and automobiles. There was more space separating bicycles from automobiles. There were more off-street trails or multi-use paths. Motorists drive more respectfully, and there are more secure bike parking near my destination. We're going to see a trend amongst these survey results concerning grade separation from the roadway for bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So then we asked the same thing for walking or rolling. And in this case, rolling is referring to those who use wheelchair and other mobility devices. This is not referring to bicycles, scooters, or things of that nature. For that, the top 5 responses was, it didn't take so long to walk or roll to my destination. There are more safer crosswalks. There's more off-street sidewalk to off-street walking paths. The sidewalks and paths are in better condition, and there is more street light after dark. And then at the end, we had an open-ended question that allowed participants to give any comments or suggestions that they may have. We also asked, do you have any additional comments pertaining to active transportation? And overall, all the responses fell into certain categories. First one being more traffic calming elements on bicycle routes. Second being more dedicated bike ped infrastructure. Third is include bike ped elements in all future projects. That was a recommendation out of the survey, not necessarily a recommendation out of the plan. Reckless drivers and addressing reckless driving as it pertains to active transportation. And then better bicycle facilities at transit stops and on buses. We did receive a few comments about people who want to ride their bikes on buses, but there's either not enough room or they're not really sure how to use that. So looping back to the plan after our little detour. So in this plan, we have a series of guidance, best practices, and assistance. So with that, we have micromobility solutions, and micromobility, that's referring to shared e-bikes and e-scooters. Up in northern Colorado, we see that through SPIN in the city of Fort Collins as well as the city of Greeley. We also include general design standards. So we have standards from the Larimer County, and I wrote this down to make sure I knew the acronym. Larimer County Urban Area Street Standards, Federal Highway Administration, of course, the National Cooperative Highway Research Program report, as well as a plethora of other sources. We have information about quick win projects as well as pilot projects, as well as information on walk audits and infrastructure assessments, which are things that we have done in the past, especially since the adoption of the last active transportation plan. And we do have one of our recommendations to continue to do those walk and mobility audits and expand that. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. We have some information on local policy as well as wayfinding and signage, bicycle parking, and educational encouragement programs. So that would be things like safe route to school, bicycle friendly driver, things of that nature. So then we have our regional active transportation corridors. And what these are is this is a network of low stress active transportation facilities between communities. There's a mix of on and off street facilities. And we'll see a little bit more about that in the next slide. These corridors are meant to serve as the spine to bicycle and pedestrian travel in the region. So we do intend for local agencies to build upon this system. And then this is also intended to be used for all modes, for all types of active transportation. We do not differentiate between commuting trails and recreational trails. We look at it all holistically as one corridor, and then we anticipate that they'll be fully built out by 2050. So this map here on the left, I want to make sure that I've got the right direction for you all. On the left is completion status as of 2023. That was the year we had, the latest year that we had data from all communities. And then the map on the right is our facilities. As you can see, most of our corridors are completely off road. We do have some that are on the roadway. There is one corridor, number 12, which is Carter Lake Horse Tooth Foothills, is completely on the roadway. And then we do have some that have combined facilities. And what that means is that is a facility that has a mix of on-street and off-street. So that could be bicycle lane as well as a sidewalk or something along those lines. We do have some corridors are mostly combined, but a majority is completely separated and off-street. So as part of this plan, we do complete corridor profiles for all 13 corridors. Because I did forget to mention a few slides ago, this plan was the first time since creating these corridors in the first bicycle plan the NPO did in, I believe, 2013. The first time that we added a new corridor. So now we have 13 RATCs, very lucky number. And then with that, we also did extend RATC number 8, which is BNSF Fort Collins to Berthoud. We extend that northward up to the NPO boundary, and it will continue into the town of Wellington to provide additional bike connectivity to the town of Wellington to the rest of our region. We also did make some alignment changes to the US 34 parallel, particularly in the city of Loveland, as well as in that central area along US 34. And then we did a slight alignment change of the Little Thompson River corridor in the town of Johnstown. So with RATC visioning, with that, for each corridor profile, we include certain things. So one thing we include is trail crossing needs. And with that, we assign each trail crossing of a roadway or railroad, a level 1, 2, 3, or 4. Level 1 is low, and that can look like just a regular striped crosswalk, a 4-way stop sign, very simple improvements. We have level 2, which we assign as medium. And with that, we have things like rapid flashing beacons, raised crosswalks, curbs extensions, things of that nature. Level 3 is high. And with that, we have protected intersections, dedicated intersections, pedestrian hybrid beacons, and roundabouts. And then grade 4 is complete grade separation, so either an underpass or an overpass. We then include strategic local connections, and these are connections that help provide local access to the corridors. So that could look like connections to a downtown area or a nearby neighborhood or activity center. We include that, one, for good planning, and when it is in our plan, it is eligible for NPO funding through call for projects. We then discuss proposed alignments. So not every corridor has an alternate alignment, but most do. So the proposed alignment is the alignment that was determined the best and the most realistic to be done. Some corridors do have alternate alignments, which were alignments that could be possible if something were to happen with the proposed alignment. And then we include corridor narratives and conditions. So each corridor is split up into segments. And in each segment, we do a quick description of what is in that segment, future projects we know in that segment, as well as just an overall corridor description. So now we will go into some of the recommendations. So for the action steps / recommendations, those are split out into 5 categories. And we will go through each category and I'll provide some examples of those recommendations. For each recommendation, some entity is assigned responsibility. So the 2 items that were assigned to planning council are in this slide, and I'll be sure to point those out. But you'll be surprised to hear that most of the things are assigned to NPO staff. So I'll have a very busy few years ahead of me. So we will begin with safety. So with safety, some example that we have is assign a bicycle level traffic stress to all roads within the NFRMPO region and incorporate bicycle LTS into project scoring and prioritization. So what bicycle level traffic stress refers to is how comfortable is it for a bicyclist to ride on a roadway. So a bicycle LTS of 1 would be pretty much anyone who can ride a bicycle would feel comfortable riding on a roadway. A score of 4 would be only the most experienced bicyclists would feel comfortable riding on the roadway. And this is one output that we do have from our regional transportation. I do this every time I see TDM. Regional travel demand model, too many TDMs. And in the model, it takes into account bicycle facility types, so is there a bike lane, things of that nature, number of roadway lanes, traffic speed and traffic volumes. Second thing we have is generate a public-facing interactive mobile-friendly map of the regional low-stress bike network. Explore opportunities, incorporate the map into existing apps and web maps. And then the last one, and probably my personal favorite, is explore opportunities to purchase a data bike to collect quantitative pavement condition data. So what is a data bike, you may ask? A data bike is a bike, usually an e-bike, that is, Oh, I got ahead of myself. I apologize.
No worries.
I completely skipped over safety. Safety is important. So
We're good. We read it. Keep going.
Data bike, it's okay.
I know it's such a good database.
Get to the data bike.
yeah, that's the fun part. So the data bike, that is an e-bike that is equipped with different technologies. So the example I have out in front of you all is from the Des Moines NPO. They call it the Iowa data bike. I will note, as far as I know, no Colorado NPO has a data bike. So if we were to get one, we could have the Colorado data bike. But what a data bike is, it's equipped with technology that tracks pavement condition, as well as a camera that can record 360 view for things like Google Street View or things of that nature. It also records pavement condition, as well as well, it depends on the data bike and it depends on what technology you get. But the example from Iowa does those things.
I'm touching it.
I do not know why it's doing that. The presentation, somebody hurry up. So we can go land use and urban form. So land use, I will note all of these are assigned to local agency staff. None of these are assigned to NPO staff. So for land use and urban form, we have, well, I lied. The first one is assigned to NPO staff. Continue offering technical assistance in the review of local development plan proposals. This is something that we do currently offer. The plan is recommending that we continue to do that. We then also review and update existing development requirements to ensure bicycle and pedestrian connectivity and access is accommodated in new areas. And then evaluate opportunities in underutilized areas that lack connectivity through connector trails, etc. Let's see if it stays on this slide and does not move itself again. So there's a lot of text on this slide, and believe it or not, I had to cut this down to fit on the slide. So this is actually longer in the plan. So for local assistance, we have developed an active transportation assistance program to do these things. In the interest of time, I will not read them all out, since I know we're running a little late. And then funding. So with funding, we have with each NFRMPO call for projects, identify opportunities to encourage applications representing a more diverse range of project types that are highly consistent with the intent of each funding program, emphasize the importance of projects that support mode shift away from single occupancy vehicle travel, and better align funding decisions and our NFRMPO target achievement. This one's particularly looking at our regional performance measure, which is non-motorized facility miles per capita. And just as a reminder, what that target is, what it is in the 2050 RTP, it is 7.62 miles per 1,000 people. And that came from the current active transportation plan that is currently adopted. That was the amount that we had in 2020. Oh, and then seek out funding opportunities for regional transportation education, trainings, and events. And then wayfinding, we have continued leading the effort to identifying wayfinding signage needs and connecting to all RITCs through a shareable and editable online interactive map platform. So some next steps, the public comment period began on March 20th, 2026. And so far, I've only received 2 comments, one from City of Greeley, the other from CSU. I'm here talking with this to you today. I'll be going to TAC for tax recommendation on April 15th. The public comment period ends on April 20th. And then I'll be back looking for, assuming nothing wild comes up during the public comment period, I'll be back May 7th to ask you all to adopt the plan. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Jerome? We're gonna get the data?
If we can find the funding.
There are grants for e-bikes. The other thing I'll just mention too is, you know, we don't talk about the NOCO bike ped group a lot, here with council. That has been something Jerome has been facilitating for years. It's not actually an MPO function. So I, have asked Jerome to coordinate with the collaborative and see how they can set it up to where we're also more of a member rather than the facilitator. Jerome's got a lot on his plate with transitioning from the ATP to the RTP. So I'm gonna try and do a full sentence and acronyms one of these nights. And so I just think it, you know, that group and what they're tasked with doing, we're gonna be asking them to step up in more of a leadership role to facilitate that group. And so Jerome has started those meetings with them to talk about what that could look like. Larimer County has also offered consulting services to help assist in running those meetings as well that they have as part of their funding. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up because you saw a lot of tasks on there for MPO staff as well as the NOCO Bike Ped Collaborative. And I think it's just really important to understand and remind maybe the council members who weren't here when that group formed that it's not actually, we're not actually charged as the MPO for managing that group. So, but we do it, we're really connected with them, right? We do sit on that. Jerome has put in a lot of time to that group. And so, he's probably still their number one person that they rely on to facilitate. So it'll take some time to kind of transition that, but I'm sure his time with the RTP is gonna be well spent to help that transition.
I just have a comment. Great job.
Yes.
Great presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very engaging and you skipped slides when you needed to, so.
Part of that was the computer deciding for me, but we're not gonna question it. I'll take the credit. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome. All right, staff report, just a couple things. One of the kind of cool things in the stack, Elizabeth was, and Bill were both, in the stack meeting as well. But there's a group called Truckers Against Trafficking. I don't know if you know about that, but it's training kind of truck drivers. And they train bus drivers to understand what trafficking is so that they can report it. And, so they, if anybody wants a presentation on it, Ann Rajewski from CASTA was there, and they're doing a program, what town did they say there? Ignacio?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a program in Ignacio. But it sounds like that the person who runs this group is in Colorado and is willing to come to other places to do it. So if you know, like businesses or groups that would like that kind of information, of how to stop trafficking, I thought that that was kind of a really cool thing that truck drivers are getting involved in. We heard about, some of the same bills, some of the same discussion around busing, that there may be a bill, moving forward around that, the CTIO and the corridors and tolling, but nothing definitive yet. Jamie Graham reported about federal. It looks like the, Congress is on recess right now for the Easter and Passover holidays. Not a lot going on with the surface transportation reauthorization at this point, but, Sam Graves, who runs the transportation, committee is, gonna be stepping off that committee, and he may want to get it passed before he leaves, so, otherwise we'll probably see a lot of continuing resolutions with, transportation funding. A 10-year plan update, nothing much to report there except for the bridge enterprise, which will have more funds, that they can move into bridges that are in poor condition. So I don't know whether they're supposed to be rearranging funds for that. There was an EV vehicle update. So, Colorado is outpacing a lot of other places with EV sales still. The NEVI program, there's still funding if people want to do, electric vehicle chargers. A lot of progress has been made in Colorado with that. But then, I thought the last presentation was on roadside fire mitigation, which is really good to know that CDOT is really trying to work on that because of, we're obviously in a big drought season. They haven't had to use as much of their funding for, snow removal as they have in the past because, no snow. So, they are able to use some of those funds that they didn't have to use this winter and shifting to, roadside fire mitigation. They'll be coming all the way up into Larimer County, doing a lot of areas, really just trying to get shrubs and brush and anything that's kind of close to the roadside, cut down. They aren't doing fire. They're not setting things on fire to get rid of them, but they are kind of mowing down and trimming things and, they don't do burning, but they are working with CPW and the State Forest Service on those projects. And as they come into our communities, they will let us know about the work that they're doing. So I thought that was good news because anything that can prevent fires is good. That's it for STAC. And so, the last word goes to, Commissioner Scott James, our host tonight.
Thank you for coming to Will County. Take home some leftover barbecue. My apologies if you had difficulty getting here. Blame the city of Greeley. Which they're fixing it. I have on closed authority.
Saying a word.
Not the North Shore Range project, hey.
Evan, maybe a couple of quick highlights on the actual transportation projects we're doing in Will County.
Yeah, we're working on quite a few things this year, this summer. Just recently we kicked off our transportation plan update, the 2050 transportation plan. Denise and I are kind of leading that effort with some others in the Public Works Department, working closely with a few other departments that didn't stakeholder group put together on that. So we'll be reaching out to several of you to be a part of our conversations as we move forward. Our planning group has kicked off their comprehensive plan update this year too. So those they've been doing a lot of public outreach on that with the survey and some other efforts that they're doing, and along with the stakeholders group. So both of these efforts will be kind of wrapping up towards as we get to the fourth quarter this year. So a good thing ahead on that. As far as construction projects, we're working on our improvements on High Plains Boulevard, which connects, this is basically a parallel to I-25 down down close to 119, a little north of there, between that, well, a little north of Highway 66 as well. So it's a 1 mile section of roadway that we're working on there. So basically it was bare ground, and we've gone in there and we're constructing quite a nice roadway there with a couple of roundabouts on either side of that. Which also connects into a mile stretch that Town and Mead is working on there. So building out that corridor as a parallel to I-25 and complementing the work that CDOT's doing on I-25, just trying to create more north-south connections. And then we're going to be kicking off a roundabout project here very soon. It's in the North Front Range NPO boundary, within the boundary. And we received some funds through North Front Range on it. So kicking off very soon with that. And that's on County Road 54, which is Freedom Parkway, or 402 as you get over there into Larimer County. And then the county line there. So we're doing a roundabout project there. Complementing some other work that we're going to be doing here in the future on that corridor as it goes east over the 257. So lots ahead with those projects, and just gearing up on some other construction projects as well. So that's about all I've got.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, any suggestions for next month's meeting? If anybody has anything burning, doesn't seem like they do, get them to Elizabeth if you do. Next month, we'll be meeting May 7th in Greeley. I will not be here, at a conference, so Vice Chair Hyde will be running the meeting. And that is it. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.